Hello and welcome to today's Wild Hearthstone deck tech and gameplay video on an update to Elemental Mage. Elemental Mage wants to use a really high density of elemental cards that are both in Mage, like Aqua Archivist, and new cards that are elementals but can even be in neutral, like the new Shale Spider, to basically play, ideally anyway, play a elemental every single turn, not only for whatever stats and bodies the individual elemental happens to be, but a lot of elementals happen to have, like the Shale Spider, a bonus if you played an elemental last turn, where Shale Spider, say, draws you a card, or Unchained Gladiator will also draw you cards, but it can draw you however many you played last turn, or cards like Tainted Remnant can turn that keeping of the elemental chain, for lack of a better phrase, and turn that into damage. Same thing with like Blaze Caller or Animated Avalanche just summons another big body. But in addition to having all of these elemental cards that care about playing additional elementals, you do have to have some elementals that don't have that stipulation, because you have to either one, start the chain off with some elemental, and you don't want to waste potential value if you can avoid it. To do that, we have cards like Tar Slime, even Amalgam of the Deep can do it, Flame Revenant, all of these, and even the new Sleet Skater, almost forgot that card. Those type of elementals are ones that you don't mind playing when you say you've broken the chain and you haven't played an elemental in a turn or two, which granted doesn't happen a lot, but will happen. So you need cards like that that you don't mind playing whenever, and sometimes needing to start the chain over again if you want to, say, take turns off to, say, use some of the very few non-elemental cards in the list. Like Book of Specters, which lets us usually draw 3 cards, since there are very little spells. The only other spells we have are the Book of Specters and 2 elemental evocations, just as ways to get additional ramp to get to our big scary elementals, like your Ragnaroses or your Animated Avalanches or your Blaze Callers. And that is the basics of the list. We want to just play elementals early on in every turn, if at all possible, for as much value as any given elemental might give you. And if it has a elemental chain effect, that's just extra gravy on top. But anywho, that's all for the deck tech. Don't forget to like the video if you'd like it, subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future, and if you have any sort of questions like, I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally constructive comments. For the most part, the list is actually pretty budget friendly. I mean, Blaze Caller and Ragnaros are legendaries. Magatha is nice, but not a thing you strictly need. If you don't have Magatha to draw more cards and you want a lower budget alternative, just play another Unchained Gladiator and it'll get you to much the same way. I will argue Book of Specters is sort of kind of necessary, but you could always, say, replace this with like an Arcane Intellect if you don't have the Epic. So the deck is actually pretty budget friendly. The rest are, for the most part, just a lot of commons and uncommons, with a few exceptions here and there, and the few exceptions that are there, more often than not, are not strictly necessary, but they are nice to have. Anywho, now with all that out of the way, we'll go on to game number 1. And game number 1 with our with our elemental mage. I will be honest, for the last couple of weeks of testing, the deck worked without the anomalies, but sometimes, for whatever reason, the anomalies came back, and they came back, I think, literally yesterday as of recording, so the deck hasn't had time to deal with it with the anomalies, but without the anomalies, the deck works just fine. Anywho, a perfectly fine opening hand. It would be lovely to have a 1-drop, but this is good enough that we're not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, as it were. I have to be honest, I don't like that anomalies are like as common as they are. They're a nice, like, maybe once a year effect thing, or should really be resigned at Tavern Brawls, as they really sort of mess up a somewhat serious format. And I'm not adverse to goofs and like the bit, but like, make the bit optional, not don't force me to participate in the bit kind of thing. Although I guess, yeah, I was gonna say in theory this could have been because they have Cho'Gall, but for whatever reason, everyone since July 4th every single match has had the anomalies in it, so hopefully this won't be around for too long, and if it is, I apologize. Anywho, play the Gyre Worm, go ahead and go faced. Our opponent playing Secret Hunter, as we've learned from our own Secret Hunter experience, is likely going to have a hard time dealing with wide boards unless they're running some sort of like Reno version of it. But even then, we'll do really well if we just stick to our game plan of being pretty aggressive. We don't really need to respond that much to what our opponent's doing. And yeah, they're playing a lot of things, that's fine. But, like, you know, they aren't really progressing the board. Anywho, let's see, 4 goes to 6, so I have 3 extra mana. So I could get to an animated avalanche, so let's just see what secrets are going to be showing up. Explosive trap is fine. Really? Well, okay, let's do a coin real fast, because if it's an ice trap, then we'll know. Bargain bin's fine. And if they play a rat trap, we're just fine to have 2 big, scary animated avalanches. And this is one of the reasons why we run the 2 copies of... Oh, that's fine. That's nothing. That's one of the reasons why we run the 2 copies of the Elemental Evocations, even though we are running cards like Book of Specters. It's just... it's so good to get ahead on tempo by basically ramping a little bit. And by ramping or gaining that tempo where you're getting ahead on turns, it really helps this deck do what it wants to do, which is just apply a lot of pressure early on and take advantage of those synergies. Because late game, this deck just does not have a whole lot of staying power. So you really want to get as explosive a turn as you can with our various ramp tools, like the Evocations are the 2... I think it's Kindling Elemental, the 1 mana 1/2 guy, I think is the name of that card. Anywho, okay, they have secrets. Just keep going face. That sucks. That's fine. Hit my face. I'm the aggressive deck. Blocking is for... Our math is for blockers. Attacking. Yeah. I see our opponent has sadly come to the same realization that I had. That, man, I and our opponent want Secret Hunter to be good. It's just not. And it only gets good the more and more you dilute the secret package and the secret aspect of the Hunter. At which point, then, you're barely even playing a secret list anymore. Anywho, pretty short, pretty sweet, but I am sort of strapped on time, so we'll take it. Anywho, now we're on to game number 2. And game number 2 with our little elemental mage. Sorry, I have to think about each anomaly as it comes up and how that might change my choices. I think I feel a sneeze coming on. So if you hear me just like cut out, that's why. Oop. Nope. Okay, we're good. Anywho, Magatha can go away. Well, you know what? That's fine. Barely caught myself. I almost blew out the mic. I apologize. Tar Slime is another one of those, and we'll play it on turn 1. One of those, like, new elemental cards that we don't mind playing just, like, neat at any point, since they all, like we talked about, and I'm going to really hammer this home. Of course, if you need to, you can play one of these elemental chain cards just on its own and not have to worry as much. And it's like, yeah, it sucks to lose the effect of whatever it happens to be. But ideally, you want to play cards like a Tar Slime that you can sort of pad out in between where you don't have a great thing you want to play. And you don't want to, like, waste a potentially good battle cry. Like we're going to get next turn with a turn 3 Tainted Remnant. The Archivist, just like in the previous version, absolute all-star. In the best of all possible scenarios, you can use this and cards like an Evocation to cheat out the big ones like we did in last game. We can cheat out the big elementals earlier, and again, use that tempo and time gained and translate that into a buttload of damage. We love that. But also, not for nothing, you can sort of and I'm going to use a magic example, treat it like a Burning Tree Emissary and just use it to go really wide in one given turn, as opposed to skipping a few extra turns. So they're lovely cards and give you a really good amount of choice that you might not necessarily think you would get from a list that contains mostly minions that require a good amount of synergy and to be played in a very particular order. I really love this list. It has it has a good amount of depth to it, and a good amount of back and forth, and really rewards you for sort of understanding what your deck can do and what your opponent's deck can do, even if it doesn't seem like the most flashy of decks. It's just a good, solid deck that has a lot of decision points, and I really like that. We'll go ahead and play the Gyre Worm. Our opponent, we effectively, our opponent 2-for-1 themselves, and we still have the blocker. So they're really on the defensive footing right now. So right now I just want to pour on damage and really make something happen. See what our opponent does on turn 4. A part of me wants to play Magatha, but I do have elementals in hand, and we're going to effectively draw 2 cards with the Amalgam and the Shale Spider. So I think we can afford to go a turn off from Magatha. So yeah, we'll Shale Spider first, see what we draw. Avalanche is fine. Do an Amalgam on an Elemental. Sure, I guess the Tempest, why not? I think I'm going to actually just ignore the Luna. There's not that much they're going to do since they don't have... They don't have, and really couldn't have that much cost reduction to really churn through their deck. They might draw 2 or 3 cards off of playing 2 or 3 spells. So they're not even going up cards, they're just burning through cards and seeing a lot more. And that's if they even do that. Which they might not even. Next turn we can always Blaze Caller their face since we are presenting lethal on the board if they don't answer with something. Just running Flame Geyser. It's spells, right? Oh no, it's any card. Okay. Okay, how much damage do we have? Let's see. 6, 8, 8, and 5. We have lethal. Well, getting further away from lethal. Okay, let me do math here. 7 and 5. It's 12, right? Can I math? $1 million question. I can math. Gabang. And honestly, these 2 games were pretty short, and I think I have time for a 3rd game, so we should be able to squeeze 1 more game in. And these games have both done a really good job of showing what the deck's good at doing. It's one of those, it's a surprisingly explosive list that's a lot of fun, and actually pretty damn good. And as we just get more elemental cards, both elemental chain cards and just good elemental cards in a vacuum, or the occasional, if there are any more Archivist or elemental evocation cards that lets us ramp more, the deck will only get better, hopefully, as time goes on. But anywho, on to game number 3. And game number 3 with our little elemental mage. I will be honest. While the last 2 games have been absolutely great, if our opponent is running the Pain Warlock thing, we might be in some trouble. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but it can go sideways. I think we'll throw back the Gladiator, because I would like to actually have an elemental to play. Okay, that's something. We'd like to have an elemental to play to sort of start the chain going. Oh yeah, we start with an extra mana crystal, don't we? Oh yeah. In that case, a Flame Revenant on turn 1. And if this lives, fingers crossed it will, but if it does, this will be a good showing of the list being able to be really explosive and go wide with its ramping tools, like we talked about. Okay, so we can do, if I'm doing this right, we can Kindling Elemental, then do a Aqua Archivist, giving us 2 mana for a Shale Spider. Maybe we draw a 1-drop, maybe we don't, that's fine. And even if we don't, granted, This is a bit of an anomaly because of the whole anomaly or this is both an anomaly because of the anomaly, but also because we had the extra mana crystal. But as you can see, we were going to get to that turn on turn 2 anyway. That part really wasn't going to change that much. Anywho, Amalgam of the Deep. See if we can find a good elemental. I'll take the Dang Blasted Elemental. It's perfectly fine. Then we go face with hero power. This is another one of those, as we also have another copy of the Dang Blasted Elemental in our list. Another perfectly little, like, bit of elemental support that's effectively a one-sided sweeper, with quotation marks you can't see me make. But, you know, it's an elemental itself. It's everything the deck loves, and is, again, as we get more cards like this, and like the Shale Spider, before he dies, as we get more cards like this, the deck will only get better and better, hopefully, as time goes on, and though it might take a while in between. Anywho, Tainted Remnant on 5 for a buttload of damage. Doing what we can to just keep applying damage. Next turn we have a Blaze Caller we can go face, or even a Gyre Worm if we need to do that, and maybe like a hero power ping or something. They're getting very... They have to have a heal, right? Because there's no way you just keep... Okay, that's something. I don't know if I care. Okay, there we go. That's better. That's much, much better. Actually, Sleet Skater is a fantastic draw. So we're going to freeze all of their board and just go face, gaining a buttload of armor. Another lovely little bit of elemental, I guess you could call it tech, in the list, giving us healing in a deck that would normally really struggle to have it, and also being able, you know, affect the board, is an elemental, comes with 2 bodies in 1. Another fantastic little card that elemental Mage got that... Ah, crud. Oh, wait, I don't care. He just dies. I was all sad and upset. My plan was entirely correct. Blaze Caller going face. I got all sad because my board got swept, and I was trying to be insightful, and I just bricked it and almost thought I lost. But yeah, it's not to sort of cut my point off, but yeah. To tie this whole video together pretty succinctly, all of these games have done a fantastic job of really showing Elemental Mage, a fantastic little tribal or typal deck, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. That is, it's a whole lot of fun. It's really, really good. It can be really budget friendly with negligible increase. And now that I think about the budget point that I talked about in the deck tech part of the video, I believe Ragnaros is in rotation now, so I think everybody gets access to it for free at the moment. So even the few legendaries you have, one of which you can in theory get for free, and none of the legendaries are like strictly required to make the deck work. It's a great list, super fun, a lot of decision points. It really rewards your knowledge of the meta and what your deck can do and what an opponent's deck can do. And it gets like good wins, and you can actually, like, you know, farm out, you know, your dailies and your what is it called in Hearthstone? Your tavern pass thing. You can farm out those with this list. It's a really solid list that I think will have a really, really good shelf life on it if you want to have a good time and a good, what's the word, cost efficiency for the amount of dust you have to put into this. You're going to get a whole lot of mileage out of it. I can't keep singing this deck's praises enough. I've already updated this, being version 2. 1000% I will come back to this list in the future when we get new or particularly exciting elemental cards or payoffs or other bits of glue that really would seem like they would work. I will 100% revisit this list in the future, and I hope you play it. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions or somewhat constructive and or like nice comments, I'll do what I can to respond to what I see. Thank you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.